Imagine discovering a website that could predict when someone was going to pass away, not through medical analysis or statistical probability, but with eerie precision, sometimes days or even weeks before it was reported in the news. In the early 2000s, a mysterious site called Mortis.com appeared to do exactly that. Names would appear on the site, and shortly after, those same names would appear in obituaries. Then, just as mysteriously as it appeared, the site vanished, leaving behind one of the internet's most disturbing digital anomalies. Welcome to Vanishing Threads. Today we're exploring the chilling mystery of Mortis.com, a website that emerged in the early days of the internet and appeared to predict when people would pass away before it happened. What makes this digital anomaly particularly unsettling isn't just its macabre purpose, but the questions it raises about coincidence, probability, and our human tendency to find patterns in randomness. Was Mortis.com truly predicting when people would pass away, or was it an elaborate hoax designed to exploit our fear of mortality? And why did it disappear so completely? Let's travel back to the internet of the early 2000s and unravel this disturbing thread. To understand the Mortis.com phenomenon, we need to place it in the context of the internet as it existed in the early 2000s. This was a transitional period for the web. The dot-com bubble had recently burst, but internet usage was steadily growing. Google was emerging as the dominant search engine, but many people still used directories like Yahoo to navigate the web. Social media as we know it today didn't exist. No Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram. Instead, people connected through forums, chat rooms, and early blogging platforms. It was also a time when urban legends and hoaxes spread rapidly online. Without today's fact-checking infrastructure and with digital literacy still developing, internet users were often less skeptical of strange or unusual content they encountered. Chain emails warning of non-existent viruses could reach millions of inboxes. Photoshopped images were shared as authentic, and mysterious websites could generate significant buzz without immediate debunking. This was the environment in which Mortis.com emerged. According to the earliest accounts, the site first appeared sometime in late 2000 or early 2001. Its design was minimalist, a black background with white text, no images, and very little formatting. The homepage displayed a simple statement: "Those whose time is near," followed by a list of names. No explanation was provided. No about page existed to clarify the site's purpose. No contact information was available, just a list of names, updated irregularly with no apparent pattern or connection between them. At first, the site attracted little attention, but then people began to notice something disturbing. Names that appeared on Mortis.com were later reported in obituaries and passing announcements, sometimes days or even weeks after they had been listed on the site. The discovery. The first documented discussion of Mortis.com's apparent predictive abilities appeared on a now-defunct forum called weirdstuff.com in March 2001. A user with the handle Digital Sleuth posted, "Has anyone else come across this creepy site called Mortis.com? It's just a list of names, but I've been checking it for a few weeks now, and at least 5 of the names have shown up in obituaries after they appeared on the site. Could be coincidence, but it's freaking me out." The thread quickly gained traction, with other users visiting the site and reporting similar observations. Some dismissed it as coincidence or confirmation bias. After all, with thousands of people passing away every day, any random list of names would eventually match some obituaries. Others suggested it might be an art project or viral marketing campaign. But as more people monitored the site over the following months, the coincidences became harder to dismiss. According to compiled reports from various forums and early blogs, between 60 to 70% of names that appeared on Mortis.com were later confirmed to be people who had passed away shortly after their names were listed. The celebrity predictions. What really brought Mortis.com to wider attention was when it appeared to predict several celebrity passings in late 2001 and early 2002. On October 21st, 2001, the name Sorensen appeared on the site. 3 days later, on October 24th, Actress Audrey Meadows, who was born Audrey Cotter but had been married to Robert Six and later to Continental Airlines president Randall Sorensen, passed away due to lung cancer. In February 2002, the name Knievel appeared on the list. On February 23rd, Evel Knievel's son, Robbie Knievel, was involved in a serious motorcycle accident. While he survived, many interpreted this as a near-miss prediction. The most widely discussed prediction came in June 2002, when the name Potts appeared on Mortis.com on June 27th. On July 1st, just 4 days later, actor Dudley Moore's ex-wife Susie Kendall, whose birth name was Rosemary Potts, passed away unexpectedly. These apparent predictions of celebrity-adjacent passings generated significant discussion on early internet forums and chat rooms. Some users began taking screenshots of the Mortis.com listings to document the predictions before they came true. As awareness of Mortis.com grew, so did theories about how it operated and who was behind it. The insider theory. Some speculated that whoever ran Mortis.com had access to non-public information about terminal illnesses, perhaps working in healthcare or insurance. This would explain how they could predict passings that were actually already known to be imminent within certain professional circles. The statistical illusion theory. Others argued that the site was simply listing common surnames, and the hits were being remembered while the misses were forgotten. A classic example of confirmation bias. With approximately 7,000 people passing away daily in the United States alone, any list of common names would eventually match some obituaries. The targeted research theory. A more elaborate explanation suggested that the site operators were researching specific individuals known to be elderly or ill, then listing their names with the high probability that some would pass away in the near future. The self-fulfilling prophecy theory. Perhaps the most disturbing theory was that the site might somehow be causing the events it predicted, either through extraordinary coincidence or through more sinister means, such as the site operators actually targeting individuals whose names they listed. Amateur investigators attempted to trace the ownership of Mortis.com, but the domain information was protected by privacy services, a common practice even in the early 2000s. The server appeared to be hosted in Eastern Europe, making it difficult for casual investigators to determine who was behind it. The technical analysis. In late 2002, a computer science student claiming to have expertise in web analytics posted a detailed analysis of Mortis.com on a tech forum. According to this analysis, the site appeared to be using a sophisticated algorithm to select names. The student, posting under the username Codebreaker, claimed to have monitored the site for 3 months and compiled a database of all names that appeared. By cross-referencing these with obituaries and passing notices, they calculated that approximately 68% of names on Mortis.com corresponded to actual passings within 10 days of listing. More interestingly, Codebreaker noted that the names weren't random. They showed patterns consistent with data mining from obituary archives, hospital records, or insurance databases. Names that appeared on the site often belonged to people who were elderly, had terminal illnesses, or were in high-risk professions. This analysis suggested that rather than truly predicting when people would pass away, Mortis.com might be using data analysis to make educated guesses about who was likely to pass soon, an early, macabre form of the predictive analytics that would later become commonplace in marketing and insurance. The disappearance. Just as mysteriously as it had appeared, Mortis.com suddenly went offline in November 2002. Visitors to the site were met with the standard server not found error. Within days, forum threads were buzzing with speculation about why the site had vanished. Some suggested that law enforcement had shut it down due to privacy concerns or potential criminal activity. Others theorized that the site operators had achieved whatever goal they had set out to accomplish. A few even suggested that perhaps the person behind Mortis.com had themselves appeared on the list, creating a final, eerie prediction. Attempts to access the site through web caches and archives yielded limited results. The Internet Archive's Wayback Machine had only a few captures of the site, showing the minimalist design but not preserving the complete lists of names that had appeared over time. By early 2003, Mortis.com had largely faded from internet discussion, remembered primarily as a creepy digital urban legend from the early web. The resurrection attempts. In the years following the original Mortis.com's disappearance, several copycat sites emerged. These typically used similar black and white minimalist designs and claimed to predict deaths, but none achieved the same level of accuracy, real or perceived, as the original. In 2007, a site calling itself Mortis 2.0 appeared briefly, claiming to be a resurrection of the original concept with improved algorithms. However, analysis by forum users quickly revealed that it was simply listing names of people already reported to be in critical condition or with terminal diagnoses. Hardly the mysterious prediction engine the original was believed to be. Another site, finalclock.com, not to be confused with the novelty life calculator site of a similar name, appeared in 2010, claiming to be created by the same people behind the original Mortis.com. However, this site required users to submit names themselves, essentially crowdsourcing its predictions and undermining any claim to supernatural or algorithmic insight. The modern investigation. Interest in the Mortis.com mystery resurged in the late 2010s, as internet users became increasingly fascinated with digital archaeology and the preservation of early web history. In 2018, a comprehensive thread on Reddit's Unresolved Mysteries attempted to collect all available evidence about Mortis.com. Users shared archived forum posts, surviving screenshots, and personal recollections of the site. One particularly interesting contribution came from a user claiming to have worked in web hosting during the early 2000s. According to this account, Mortis.com had been hosted on a server in Estonia and was registered to a company called Digital Futures Limited, which had no other web presence and appeared to be a shell company. Another Reddit user with experience in data science offered a compelling explanation for how Mortis.com might have operated. Even with the limited data mining capabilities of the early 2000s, it would have been possible to create an algorithm that identified high-risk individuals by scraping obituaries, news reports, and public records. The algorithm could identify patterns, for example, that people with certain combinations of age, location, and surname were statistically more likely to pass away soon. It wouldn't be perfect, but a 60 to 70% accuracy rate would be achievable and would seem eerily prescient to users not familiar with predictive analytics. This technical explanation has become the most widely accepted theory among those who have studied the Mortis.com phenomenon in depth. Rather than supernatural prediction or inside information, the site likely represented an early, ethically questionable experiment in predictive analytics, using publicly available data to make educated guesses about people's remaining time. The Mortis.com mystery exemplifies several fascinating aspects of early internet culture and our relationship with technology. The technical context. From a technical perspective, what seemed supernatural or impossible in the early 2000s appears much more explicable today. In an era when data mining, machine learning, and predictive analytics have become commonplace, the idea of an algorithm predicting people's final moments based on public information seems less like magic and more like a morbid application of standard techniques. What's particularly interesting is how Mortis.com may have been ahead of its time. Today, insurance companies routinely use similar predictive models to assess risk. Healthcare systems use algorithms to identify patients at high risk of readmission or deterioration. The core concept behind what made Mortis.com disturbing, using data to predict life expectancy, has become an accepted, even beneficial part of modern society. The psychological impact. What made Mortis.com so unsettling wasn't just its apparent ability to predict when people would pass away, but how it presented those predictions. The minimalist black background, the lack of explanation, the simple list of names, all created a sense of dread and inevitability. The site played into deep-seated human anxieties about mortality and fate. By presenting its predictions without context or explanation, it allowed visitors to project their own fears onto it. Was it a warning? A threat? a glimpse into some hidden order behind the chaos of human existence. This psychological dimension helps explain why the memory of Mortis.com has persisted long after the site itself disappeared. It wasn't just a technical curiosity, it was a digital manifestation of one of humanity's oldest and most profound fears. The cultural legacy. Mortis.com emerged during a transitional period in internet history, after the web had become widespread enough to reach millions of users, but before the establishment of many of the structures and norms that define our online experience today. This timing helps explain both how the site could operate with relative anonymity and how it could generate such widespread fascination and concern. Without today's fact-checking infrastructure and digital literacy, internet users were more willing to entertain possibilities that would now be quickly debunked. The site has become part of early internet folklore, alongside other digital mysteries like Cicada 3301 and Lake City Quiet Pills. These stories persist because they capture something essential about the internet's early promise and peril, its ability to connect us to information and ideas that were previously inaccessible, but also its potential to mislead, disturb, and exploit. The true nature of Mortis.com will likely never be definitively proven. The site existed in an era when much of the internet was still ephemeral, before comprehensive archiving became standard practice. Many of the forums where it was discussed have long since disappeared, taking their servers and databases with them. What seems most probable, based on the available evidence, is that Mortis.com was an early experiment in predictive analytics, using data mining techniques to identify individuals with a high statistical likelihood of imminent passing. While this explanation lacks the supernatural element that made the site so fascinating to many users, it's actually more interesting from a historical perspective. If this interpretation is correct, Mortis.com represents an early, ethically questionable application of technologies that would later transform our digital landscape. The same basic techniques that may have powered its predictions now drive everything from Netflix recommendations to credit scores to medical diagnoses. The site's legacy also raises important questions about privacy, data ethics, and the power of algorithms. Today, we're increasingly aware of how our digital footprints can be used to make predictions about our behavior, preferences, and even our health. Mortis.com may have been an early warning of the potential for such technologies to cross ethical boundaries when deployed without transparency or oversight. Perhaps most importantly, the Mortis.com mystery reminds us of how the internet has evolved as a medium for storytelling and myth-making. Whether the site truly predicted when people would pass away or simply created the illusion of doing so, it generated a powerful narrative that has persisted for over 2 decades. In this sense, Mortis.com belongs to a tradition of digital folklore that includes creepypastas, urban legends, and collaborative fiction projects. These stories reflect our attempts to make sense of new technologies and the uncanny experiences they sometimes create. The moments when the digital world seems to reveal something strange or unsettling about reality itself. As we continue to explore the internet's dark corners and forgotten histories, we'll inevitably encounter more mysteries like Mortis.com, digital anomalies that challenge our understanding and capture our imagination. Some will eventually be explained, while others may remain permanently unsolved, preserved only in screenshots, memories, and stories passed from one generation of internet users to the next. If you're interested in exploring the Mortis.com mystery further, we've included links to internet archive captures and Reddit discussions in the description below. If you enjoyed this coverage, please consider subscribing to the channel. New stories are added every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, perfect for background listening while you work, relax, or drift off to sleep. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay curious, stay safe,